Hey listeners, you're listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. Grab some tea, a midnight snack, and cuddle up in bed as we dive deep into today's most popular fantasies, sci-fi, and mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Lily.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Christy.
This season we'll be discussing the heart-pounding military fantasy that's part Hunger Games and part How to Train Your Dragon. That's right, grab your flight jacket, we're headed to Besgaya.
A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A reader without their book, or this podcast, is dead. Welcome to the revolution. My best advice, don't die and don't worry, we most likely won't eat our allies.
In this episode, we'll be discussing Onyx Storm, the prologue through chapter 12, where Violet commits treason but is inadvertently pardoned and goes into battle against a villain whose silvery looks and abilities seem to mirror her own.
Before we get into it, this is your warning for major spoilers ahead. This includes potentially all Empyrean series materials. We're also avid fans of the Moss universe and might accidentally let spoilers slip for other popular romantasy book series as well. Sorry in advance, like the books, this podcast is rated R, so be warned.
Also, a friendly reminder to please like, subscribe, and follow. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also join our growing community on Patreon for bonus content and more.
Alright, last we left off, Violet, Xaden, and the Eurasian Riot return to Besgaya to protect the Vale from the invading Venin hordes after Jack fucking Barlow brought down the wards by killing his dragon, R.I.P. Bade. During the battle, Xaden faces off with a supposed maven and channels to protect Violet, while Lilith Sorengale sadly sacrifices herself to restore the Wardstone. Now we deal with the aftermath of the battle, but first I wanted to talk about the dedication. I'm just going to read it real quick. To the ones who don't run with the popular crowd, the ones who get caught reading under their desks, the ones who feel like they never get invited, included, or represented, get your leathers. We have dragons to ride. I know when you read this, Christy, you had a really big emotional reaction to this that you texted us about. Do you want to talk about it?
Even now, it makes me tear up. I just think that is the most awesome fucking dedication ever. Just to anyone and everyone who has ever felt like they weren't included or that they didn't have any. It just feels so personal. But yeah, I'm tearing up now, even when you read it. So,
yes.
It's like a big hug to anyone who just never felt right. And it's like, hey, we get dragons.
Yes.
Yeah.
She gets
us.
Hey,
you matter.
She gets us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
And I just want to say real quick, when we were anticipating this book release, the audiobook only on Audible only listed one narrator. And you know me, I love a Xaden POV. I was panicking. And when I first downloaded it and it listed not only Rebecca Soler, who's amazing, but Teddy Hamilton, who is also a great narrator, but two others, I had to literally stop the audiobook and be like, and I just feel like it was such a great surprise. I mean, it caused me so much anxiety, but I feel like I'm hoping we get more surprises like that for book 4 and 5 in the future.
See, this is why you read the book. Anxiety problem solved.
Also, the anxiety response, that's like an understatement. The panic is an understatement.
It is.
The amount that I heard about this at work. What do you mean? Where's Teddy Hamilton?
I mean, I need a Xaden POV. But,
and we got them.
Yeah,
we got
the
them.
thought of not having it was just like...
You're like, how will I survive?
Well, speaking of Xaden, he is now Venin, and he has to keep this secret from everybody, but Violet's not the only one who knows. We've got Garrick and Bodhi, who guarded him while they sat by Sawyer's bedside. He visits Jack in the prologue, and by the end of it, Violet tells Imogen. Then we find out later, Theophanie knows. Berwin knows. Who else is gonna be in on this secret? Who else already knows?
So, quick question. Jack was fucking Venom for how long and didn't seem to worry about it. So why is Aiden so worried other than losing control?
Well, when Jack was Venom, most of Bisguyth wasn't aware that there were Venom out there.
True.
Okay.
True.
But they keep saying, oh, if they know Zayden's secret, he'll be executed. But they didn't execute Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they fucking saved his ass.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what's crazy about this is we didn't talk about it in the last episode, but when this was revealed at the end of Iron Flame, I think the entire Fourth Wing community had like a moment of what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
We were just told that this is the only being in this world that is evil. You know what I mean? Like, we spent the whole book leading up to, oh, this is really, really bad and the world is ending, basically. And then she throws that at us. I kind of understand why Xaden would be concerned. I'm a little surprised Violet is not more concerned, actually.
Well, I mean, like her mother's heading said, she kind of threw logic out the window. But also,
yeah,
I don't know, I think because she didn't have trust in Faith and Xaden before, she's now kind of overdoing it and is like, oh, of course he's going to be fine. It's perfectly fine. You know, everything's going to be fine.
Don't get me wrong. I think I probably would react the same as her. It's like, no, we're absolutely going to find a cure. You know what I mean? Like, I would not be willing to admit any kind of defeat.
Same.
But even as a reader, I'm like, Violet, are you not even like a little worried?
Like, he channels while he's at or beyond the wards, and then he panics so much that Garrick has to go save her ass. Not really save her ass, but, you know, pretend to save her ass for Xaden's sake. But it makes you wonder who else knows, because Jack later says that, you know, there are venom among them, that they can sense each other. Who else knows?
So they all know, which means they could tell somebody else. But would they? I don't think they would tell anybody else that wasn't Venom, because that would put him in danger, which puts Violet in danger, and they want her. So they would protect his secret.
They want Xaden too, though. They, for some reason, want Jack. They tried to rescue him.
We really have no answers. We don't know anything about them, really. Like, we know what they do. We know they're bad and they kill people. We know they ride wyverns. But we have no sense of their, I can't think of the word, their goals, their like reasons for acting on anything.
Do we think that Xaden would tell anybody?
I don't know. Do we, Brittany?
Yeah, why would she ask that? If
right. There is a reason I'm asking it, but not because I know.
I think Xaden would tell somebody, but only if he thought there was good reason for it. I mean, he told Violet.
I'm just going to say it's important to keep track of who knows.
Is there anybody he would have told that had to do with his royal standard now, just so that in case something happened, they would know who the next in line was or who to run the country?
I think Bodhi's next in line.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's the next member of the family.
Yeah, I don't know who else it would be.
Violet?
Well, they would have to get married.
Maybe not in Tyrandor. Maybe it's common law marriage.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that's an interesting thought, and now I'm gonna keep track of it.
You know, it'd be super cute is if it went to Taryn and Sigale, and they were like over the people, and they sat in their little throne room with their little crown.
They would have to break the Tyrandor throne, and that throne is obviously very important to the fandom.
Taryn would not concern himself with the politics of humans.
Very true.
That is very true, yeah.
But it's still cute.
But we are on Weather Watch as well. Other than, you know, who knows about Xaden, we're on Weather Watch. So we've brought this up several times before. We have the rain on the parapet, the rain during the fight at Corden. There was the fog mist at the hike of the Cliffs of Draelor, rain during the Battle of Bisguyth. I feel like I forgot some. But then we get this quote, it had been warm enough for thunderstorms earlier, but now snow falls in thick curtains, concealing the ravine that separates the quadrant from Biscayeth's main campus. Literally hours, it went from warm to snow.
I had no idea when I pointed out on our reread at the early reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame that it would have a genuine importance later. I really didn't think about it. I was just like, wow, I never noticed that, and that could be like helpful in a battle or something. But never did I think it would come to this.
We got our own heading about it. Chapter 10.
Yeah.
The weather is one of the great equalizers in battle. Equally detrimental or favorable to both sides given the conditions. Without our wielders swaying that element to our advantage, we are at its mercy. And I also found it interesting how many signets surround weather. You've got storm wielders, wind wielders, air wielders, lightning wielders.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a weather watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you think about it, it is super important because they're always in the sky. But never had I considered it before now, really.
But the funny thing is the parapet and the battle at Cordon both were with her on the ground.
Yeah, that's true too.
All right. During the Battle of Biscayeth, Andarna changed colors and managed to burn one of the venin. This, we are told, is not something that can be done. They are immune to dragon fire. We learned that at the Battle of Resin. So, is Andarna's fire special? Is it because she changed colors?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this kind of brought me back to our discussion about how the Wyvern are created. And I don't really know that we'll get an answer in this book, but it's just really weird that she is a separate kind of dragon.
Yeah. And I think that it's one of the things I kind of questioned was, is she the weapon that they talked about before? And is it Lyra or Lyra?
Lyra.
Lyra.
L-Y.
The audiobook says Lyra.
L-Y.
I think the audiobook is wrong.
Okay. Well, then I'll go with that. But with that in mind, could Lyra and some of the others have hidden the seventh breed to protect them from Biscayeth, using them for their power?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be kind of implied that way, right? Why do we not have any of the iridescent dragons left? And with all of the little tidbits of info we get in this section about Lyra, I'm starting to wonder what happened, what nefarious things happened, and who could have been involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a good theory.
There's another theory out there that perhaps maybe when Andarna changes colors, it depends on what color she changes into that will give her special abilities. So in the battle, she changed from being camouflaged to being a black dragon. So maybe if she changes into a black dragon, that produces fire that will burn venin. So if she changes into a different color, maybe she can cure venin or change them in some other way. What do y'all think?
I like the idea that she could, in theory, do multiple different things, but I don't like the theory because it's a little wonky. Like, how would you explain some of that? If Yaros goes down that route, I would feel the same way that I feel about her description of Xaden's intrinsic ability, which I feel is not specific enough. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have a grasp herself on how his intrinsic powers work, so we don't have a grasp on how his intrinsic powers work. So I kind of hope that whatever's going on with Andarna, that she explains it better than that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do think it is because they don't know anything about intrinsics that they're completely clueless. But I hope Rebecca knows. We'll see.
I feel like she doesn't, but okay.
Do we think that the Irids are going to be the weapon?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's Andarna, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to somehow be connected to it. There's a lot of questions between that and the first 6 that it just, I don't know. I always feel like I'm wanting to talk about it because every time I think we've got a handle on it, then she introduces something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Well, Violet and her squad do go and visit Sawyer. Poor Sawyer.
I love seeing Sawyer
in his infirmary bed. And I gotta say, so when I was diagnosed, it did feel like losing a limb, almost. I mean, I lost my pancreas, but sort of. It's still in me, it just doesn't work. But I did.
Okay, that could be so many things. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is, I felt broken. I cried about it, and I'm gonna cry now. But it's just, I love how relatable every single character feels. Whether it's Rhiannon being, the best friend ever, and you're like, I have a friend like that, or I would like to be a friend like that. Or it's Violet and her struggles with her chronic condition. Or, like I said last episode, I feel I relate to Xaden a lot. I relate to Bodhi a lot. But
she's good at writing an interesting character, for sure.
But yeah, and I feel for Sawyer so bad because he feels so broken. He feels like he's not who he was. He's not a writer anymore. And when they go off and run to fight the Venom, he has to stay behind.
Although I did very much appreciate Sawyer make a point from, I think it was last episode, and I was like, thank you, Sawyer. Because Rhiannon tells him to hydrate, and he's like, water's not going to grow my leg back. And I was like, thank you, Sawyer. Thank you.
I think it was actually either episode 4 or 5. But
then I went on my water tirade.
But yeah, I noted it in here twice. There's 2 times that happens, and that was when Rhea offers water to Sawyer, and then when Violet is talking to Jack, she's like, "Oh, he's so emaciated. I kind of want to just offer him his untouched glass of water." And I was like, Christy is probably like dying right now.
Christy's one pet peeve. Like, God, stop offering them water.
But when I saw Sawyer's response, I was like, thank you very much.
All right. Well, Rebecca Yarros did say that this is not the first time that the Venom have infiltrated Besgaeth as scribes.
Okay, thought. I just had a thought. Random theory. Remember how... Do you remember how last episode Brittany was like, how did Lilith get that other journal? I wonder if just maybe, former Venom Lilith called in a favor.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely. Because that could have been something the Venom want her to have because they want Violet.
Yeah, how crazy would that be if, it was this big conspiracy for Violet to eventually end up a Venom?
Yeah.
And Lilith was brought in on it. I mean, we know that she could have been made a Venom, or she slipped at some point, or at least that's the big theory. We did not get a confirmation, sadly. But I don't know. It sounds like a crack theory, but maybe it's not.
It doesn't. It actually does not. Because I had put a theory in here as well, and I called it my lunatic theory, that the Dark Wielder with long silver hair or long silver braid is either Violet from the future or the past.
I also wrote that.
The first, or the one of the first 6, and they're related. One of the first 6, it was a lightning wielder, and they're related.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I also had the crack theory that it was her from the future. Because I was like, how crazy would it be? Because in the scene where, I don't remember what chapter that is, but is it not chapter 1? I don't remember.
It's pretty early on.
Super early when they're rushing to Jack and she runs into those 2 Venom and one of them has silver hair. She takes note of it. We don't see what she looks like, really. We don't get a description of her face. We get a description that I think she's holding a sword.
Nope. That was in a different one. The description we get is that she has long silver hair in a braid and has a faded tattoo on her forehead.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll talk about, or I was going to talk about this later, but there is a theory out there that Theophanie is Lyra, whoever, because they thought that the sword, the Venin holding the sword, was Theophanie, but when you look back, the one holding the ruby-hilted sword actually dies by Violet's hand.
Right.
But
okay, so it's the other Venin.
Yeah.
Because she disappears, doesn't she?
She does. But there is, this theory states that, you know, when Violet meets her later, she just shrugs casually. That reminds her of the Duchess of Moraine. And who's from Moraine?
Lyra.
Yeah, it could.
Lyra.
It could be. And it fits so much better if she had this ruby-hilted sword.
Yeah.
Because the Duchess of Moraine tends to wear rubies. And I will tell you this is probably another thing that we will need to keep an eye on, is the the gems that are mentioned in the series.
Onyx, ruby. What were you going to say, Christy?
I have an even crazier crackpot theory that goes along with that. What if, in the end, we find out that the Venin are somehow the good guys, and that they are protecting the seventh breed, and that's why Lyra is trying to bring her into the Venin fold, because maybe they kind of disappeared with the seventh breed in order to protect them from being used.
I feel like this is the nymph theory all over again. We're at the beginning of Zodiac Academy year. We're like, no, the nymphs are going to turn out to be good guys.
And they were for some.
They were for some.
I feel like my working theory is not far, but it's a little different. My working theory is that the Venin started off good. That maybe they were not bad at the beginning. Maybe they were led by Lyra. Maybe the first six, wanted a lot of power, and Lyra was like, no, I'm going to try and be the good guy. It went wrong somehow. She ended up taking too much. I don't know. Something happened and the Venin were created as a result of trying to keep balance of power in the world. And then they kind of morphed into this bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they weren't bad in the beginning. Maybe they have this grand, plan for the world, and that's why Violet was like prophesied or something like that. Prophesied. I don't know. That's my working theory. I don't know how realistic it is. It's probably going to change.
It could be, because what if the badness is some sort of infection like it was in Zodiac Academy? The Shadow Princess that really infected. So it wasn't really that they were bad, but she kind of infected them.
True. What if you could cure the Venin, like Violet says?
Yes.
But I don't know. Why are they so fucked up? Because, like, Jack Barlow, you can't cure that.
Like ass going in, ass going out. I mean,
yeah, he was already like that.
Garbage in, garbage out kind of thing.
All right, enough speculating.
I mean, you make a good
We'll have
point.
to see.
Jack is the thing about
all-seeing eye.
The thing about Jack and what he says about being cured. We don't want to be cured. The thing about it is most Venin turn because they want to be Venin.
Right.
So I think that it could help if they could cure them. It could help people like Xaden, and it could help with, I could just channel now and be cured and have more power. Could create more problems that way, but anyway, I did have this.
I don't want peace. I want problems. Always.
I had this silly little question of when the Venin started attacking. Winifred is there, and she's like, Violet, don't go out there. And I'm like, how? Do you know what your husband did to Violet? Do you know?
Oh my god. The way you said that was like, Lassie, whoever so-and-so stuck in a well.
Save yourself.
Oh, don't go out there. Sorry.
Yeah. But the big question about this scene is, why is Jack so important?
It's a great question. Like, why are they trying to save him? Is it like a numbers thing? Or does he have something special? And it goes back to, like, what the fuck is his signet?
Yeah.
We still don't know.
Well, when he killed his dragon,
Yeah.
did he get something special?
When he killed his dragon, I would assume that he lost his signet.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Could he have stolen the power, though, from his dragon?
Well,
Did he absorb him?
he didn't absorb him because the body was still there and he wasn't desiccated the way fuel was.
I don't mean physically. I mean, like,
The power.
could he have taken that magic from him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I do know when he kills the dragon, he has to channel in order to survive to replace that magic. So, no clue. But some people speculated it's because Jack knows things, but literally they're doing better at eavesdropping by pretending to be scribes than what Jack's learning.
Yeah.
Seriously.
He's an idiot.
Or it could be because he is a liability. He keeps spilling these Venom secrets.
Possibly.
But I feel like their desire to get him is more intense than just, oh, we need to shut him up.
Yeah. There's
I feel
something
like they
going on
just-
that we don't know about.
Yeah, they just need to kill him. I don't understand why they don't just kill him.
For real. For real. They've killed every other Venom. Why not Jack?
Yeah, I mean, let's test Andarna's theory out with him.
For real. All right. Lily, did you want to talk about Sawyer's signet?
I sure do. I would love to talk about Sawyer's signet, as a matter of fact. Something that came to mind in a crazy fit of, I don't know. I just had this moment where I was thinking about Sawyer as a character. And I was like, you know what? First of all, Sawyer is just lovely. Second of all, I was proud of Ridoc for being like, stop pouting and get off your feet because we need you.
Yes.
And then from that stemmed, actually, we do really need him because his signet is so crazy. And I was thinking about it because, I mean, he just molded that glass, whatever cup he had, just by touching it. And then we find out, well, Violet wants his help working on the Ward Stone. I think that Sawyer's signet is way more valuable than half of the other signets that we know of. I mean, especially because, one, the dragon eggs are metal, which we have probably have not talked about enough. Two, the ward stones are metal. They're predominantly iron as far as we know. And they kill Venom with metal, with alloy. Also, I think that he should... I'm like clapping. Also, I think that he should make himself a metal leg because I think that he should make it out of alloy that he can then imbue and use it as a weapon. That is my thought.
That was my reaction
Kicking
when
some
I
ass.
read that in the notes. I
That's
was
so
like,
good.
oh, that's such a good
Why
thought.
wouldn't you do that? I mean, one, he could do it easily with his signet, and then also the fact that they use alloy to kill Venom. Come on, it's right there.
So,
it's right there.
When I read this, I was also picturing, what's that movie? The King's Men or something like that? Kingsman? Where the lady has metal legs that she uses to slice people up. I may be thinking of the wrong movie, but that is...
I don't know what you're talking
That
about.
is what I'm talking about. It's a horrible movie, so I don't recommend watching it.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it could be a weapon. His missing leg could be a weapon.
That
Yep.
is
That would
amazing.
be awesome.
I was just like, yes! Yes.
You're like, yes. Genius.
Is the Ward Stone an actual stone, or is it like
Iron.
melted dragon eggs?
It's iron. So at least that's what they're theorizing.
Melted dragon eggs.
Now, how you get that much iron?
What if it was one giant dragon egg?
Oh shit.
Dang.
That'd be like a monster mama.
Yeah.
That would hurt. Give birth to that.
Oh, man. But that is a good thought. What if Sawyer or a metallurgist was the one who carved the ward stones to begin with?
Yeah. It's just, I immediately was like, how are they not thinking about how important his signet is?
And I was going to talk about this later too, but I want to point out when they do ask him to go help with the wards, he says, I cannot think of a single rock or earth wielder ever. He says, then
The
you're
actual
fucked
quote.
because I can't think of a single rock or earth wielder in our history. And I was like, so there's
None?
There's plant wielders. There's metal wielders. It might be the Avatar speaking, but those are types of earth wielders, right?
Toph would figure it out, I think, personally.
They mention, though, somewhere, it says specifically that Aaron Norris, they credit, I'm assuming him, for building Basgiath with stone stairs instead of wooden ones. But I would have to think that would be, if it's just him building it, there would have to be some sort of signet in that, right? I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, if they built it with signets, they could have built it like we build things.
Yeah, I felt like the way that they did that thing was just insignificant because it was a very weird notification that somehow he is important.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I would also like to point out, since you brought up Aaron Norris real quick, we do have a writer, a first year in Violet's squad.
Somebody.
named Baylor Norris.
Ah.
And I'm like, okay, so we've got Zayden Ryerson, all in Fourth Wing, Dane, Atos, Arik Gregcasso, a.k.a. Cam Towery, Violet Sorengale, all in one little group of all these major players.
Yep.
So
it's interesting.
Makes me think maybe there's some kind of relation with this Baylor person?
There has to be, because why else bring up him as building Basgiath if there's not connections? That's cool. I didn't catch the kid's name.
I also didn't catch the name, but Brittany has read the full book, so.
It only appears twice in the entire book, so.
What the fuck just happened? Why does so much happen on your fucking screen?
What happened?
Balloons
came flying up.
What the fuck?
Okay, fine, whatever.
I'm trying to be serious here.
Okay, so before we get to the Wardstone tampering treason, let's talk about the Navarian writers versus the Eurasian writers. Because I feel like the Eurasian writers are they've melded into one unit. They have each other's backs.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. We see that when they go to visit Sawyer and, like, they're all sprawled out on the floor and, like, sitting on the bed and they just fit right in.
And not only that,
the Navarian ones.
But during that, when you wrote it in the notes, I was like, I feel the same way, but I wouldn't have told Aura Binehaven a thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't report to you, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So fair.
Yeah.
But, and I know you disagree with me, but I think they are fucking cowards.
Well, it's not necessarily that I disagree with you. It's more like I don't know if it's necessarily that they're cowards. I disagree in terms of technicality. Okay. I agree that they suck. Like, regardless.
But my thing is, okay, so during the Battle of Basgiath, most of the third years were sent to Midland Posts. So Aura Binehaven, wing leader, senior wing leader that she likes to throw out there, she would have been at a Midland Post. She did not, unless I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I don't think she participated in the Battle of Basgiath. And then she has the gall to sit there and say, we protected our wards.
Right, yeah. This is what I mean by, like, they're just very narcissistic. Oh, so you're saying you don't know how to think of anyone but yourself. That's what I'm hearing.
And when she says, they didn't cross the parapet, they didn't climb the gauntlet, we don't tolerate cowards. You've been sitting behind your wards with a pretend war against the Flyers while they've been out there with no protections, no weapons, and facing venom and wyvern and dying by the dozens each day. And if you remember, I think it was in Fourth Wing or Iron Flame, they were like, to lose one rider a day or a week was a big deal.
Well, yeah, I'm going to put my little mini rant in here too. They are fucking cowards. Every last piece of shit one of them that should fucking die and should not be protected. They should not be helped because those motherfuckers held a knife to the throat of a fucking first year.
Yes.
If they weren't fucking cowards, that bitch would have chosen somebody on her same fucking level, but she knows she's so fucking weak that she can't fucking do it.
Yes.
So she does it to a fucking first year, and not one of those pieces of shit, Navarian writers, said anything about it. They didn't stand up for what's being right, so they are fucking cowards, and they all deserve to die.
Same. I wrote down the same thing. I was like, you can't pick on somebody your own size? For real?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So, sorry, rant over. That pissed me off.
Okay, I retract my statement.
That pisses me off when somebody picks on somebody that cannot defend themselves.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I want to go on record and say I am not defending them in any way. I was more of thinking like, in a way, it's even worse because not only are they cowardly here by going after someone, picking on someone not your own size, but they're also just the inability to see beyond themselves just means like you shouldn't be a fucking leader. Mm-hmm. You should not be calling the shots. You don't even know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
How fucking dare you sit here and talk about anything? You haven't seen jack shit.
Mm-hmm. And they choose not to. They know something else is out there and they still choose to see the lies.
Well, they're still in like school mode. They're like, oh, we can't let the Flyers join. That'll give them an advantage for war games.
It's like, you fucking dumbasses. We do not give a fuck about war games.
Yeah,
right
who
now.
cares about war games? You're at fucking
Christy,
war.
You would have liked my comment. I don't know if you saw it. I said how very red-pilled of them. I mean, it's like, okay, we're just delusional now. Yeah. We're just completely delusional.
And then for Aura to also sit there and be like, oh, it's their war. Who produced Jack Barlow?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hate her so much.
War.
I really do. I hate her so much.
She's her and Jack, two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
We should watch out for her. She could become villain.
So there are some fans who also believe that there is something funky with Second Wing, of which Aura...
Isn't it First Wing? I thought it was First Wing.
Jack is from First Wing, but Aura is from Second Wing, and she's the one who's switched places with Violet in Fourth Wing. She started out in Fourth Wing.
Yes. Yeah.
But Aura is the wing leader of Second Wing. And in the very first chapter, it says, quick patrols have proven deadly, and I'm not looking for reasons to test Indarna's fire theory. Dark wielders may have limited power within the wards, but they're still lethal fighters. The ones who didn't escape post-battle have used the element of surprise to add multiple names to the death roll. First Wing, Third Wing, and our own Claw section have suffered losses. Who's missing?
Second Wing.
Second Wing.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
They're all
they haven't lost any. Mm-hmm. So that's funny.
Not only that, but the first year...
Oh, no.
Assassin that Atos sent after Violet was also Second Wing. And then the one that attacked Bodhi, he says, I completely eviscerated some asshole out of Second Wing while naked and only got a bruise.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be sus. I'd be sus about her, at least.
Something suspicious. And
especially especially her unwillingness to accept any of the Flyers and just her general aggressiveness.
It's like she can't evolve. I get it, you were trained to be this way, but the world has changed, the information has changed, and it's time to evolve with it. And
I think she's just a bitch. She wasn't trained that way. Plenty of other people were trained and aren't that way. So I think that was just her from the get-go. She's like a female Jack.
Shit going in, shit coming out.
Right.
So the Scenarium chose to ignore all the hard work that Mira did in finding out how to modify the ward stone so that the flyers could wield. And which, can I say, fuck the Solarium too, because they literally are going to be like, no, your dragon is what we need, but we're the ones in charge, so we're going to tell you that Professor Grady is going to be in charge and you'll just have to do whatever he says.
Of course they did.
You have no cards.
Because, fuck you. Yeah, right? Like, the audacity to just tell me what to do when you have no cards to play is wild.
And Violet's, well, we could just leave again. And honestly, they should have.
I would understand if they did, but also, I think the decision to stay is made for Xaden.
Well, I mean, even the dragons are kind of feeling like they want to go back. Some of them.
Atrum.
Yeah.
Atrum and Ridoc have this little fight in the beginning about wanting to go home.
And Taryn was so mean. I love my Taryn, but that was mean.
It was a little mean, yeah.
I mean, Atrum...
He needs to get the stick out of his ass.
Atrum almost killed his rider, I'm just saying.
It was a mistake, and he wasn't going to kill him. He was simply going to sit on Taryn's head. That was it. You know?
But that might have crushed Violet. I'm just saying.
You know, I do think...
Not as she went up his butt.
Atrum, oh my god.
What were you saying, Lily?
You know, what was I saying? Christy,
you said
you want to repeat that? Oh my god. Speaking of Atrum, I know that there's that theory about Ridoc potentially having another signet because of the tattoo of Atrum and how it's mentioned many times. I don't know if that's necessarily what I believe, but I do think there's something going on between them.
Yes, I agree. And,
you know,
I had the thought of what if Ridoc was lying about the argument that they had.
I think that he was.
Yeah.
I think that he was, and but I want to know what they were talking about. Because I feel like if they were talking about that, it wouldn't have caused Atrum to fall out of the sky, or have the trouble that they were having in blocking out the other dragons. Something else was going on.
Yeah. Also,
does Atrum know that Xaden is Venom?
Doubtful.
Could he have just found out that way?
I don't think so.
Could have.
I don't know. I would think that Ridoc would have been told, and Ridoc isn't going to keep his mouth shut about it.
Yeah, that's true.
At least to Violet.
The thing about Ridoc is I feel like he's a more important character than we realize at this point. And so I feel like the bottom is going to drop at some point soon.
Like its dragon.
And the bottom of his dragon is going to drop on Taryn soon. And then we'll all find out.
Oh man, I do also want to point out that Taryn says that Atrum is 22, so...
He's a baby.
Yeah, they're almost the same age, him and Ridoc.
That means that Atrum is literally a juvenile. Technically, Andarna's older.
Well, I mean, we don't know how long Atrum stayed in his eggshell.
Okay, so we're not including that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if we do include that, then Andarna's older than Taryn.
Fair.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Fair.
But yes, I do think that,
yes.
Ridoc is important. I think that there is something going on with him. I would love his backstory. I did postulate in the notes that what if, since, we got all these famous people's progeny in Second Squad, what if Ridoc was secretly aristocracy as well, or something like that?
Okay, can you imagine Ridoc as a nobleman?
Right?
I can't.
That's
either. Great.
He would be fantastic.
But
I would love it.
The only mention of his family is, I think, in Iron Flame, where he was like, I haven't heard from my father.
Interesting. We also know that he has a secret that he didn't tell us during the torture RSC bit. So, what is he not telling us?
Who's the lady? The one that people were saying Theophanie was?
Lyra.
Lyra?
Moraine.
No, not Lyra. Moraine? Okay.
The Duchess of Moraine?
Yeah, what if that's her kid?
Lyra of Moraine is who they were thinking she was.
What if she's the Duchess of Moraine's kid?
Do what? Wait, what is this theory?
I don't think that's
tell me what.
I don't think it's where he's from, but how cool would that be? Remember
Isn't
the
he
lady
supposed to
that
be
comes
from
in? Well, remember the lady that comes in when she is, that Atos is like, well, you're done for now. And then she goes in and they realize that they pardoned them before or after it happened or whatever. And that lady comes in and she's like, thinks it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember.
That's her kid. What if he's her kid?
That's Queen Mariah of Pormeal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so he would be very dumb.
Well, it does say that she is famously childless, but
why do I feel like that's Satan's mother? If she's famously childless and we have a child that doesn't know his mom, barely knows his mom, come on.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
And it was a marriage made for alliance, so that'd be wild.
Well, I like y'all's theory that he is royalty of some sort.
I just know there's something going on with him that we don't know about, and I love Ridoc, so I need it to be good. If he turns on us, I will stop reading this series.
Yes.
I will end it there. That would be too much.
Mm-hmm.
That would be too much for me. No, Yaros, I will not continue.
If he turns, what if he dies?
I mean, if he died, that'd be different. Like, what a tragedy. I would not want that. But if he turned on us, if he betrayed us, that would be worse than him dying.
Yes. I feel like legacies are such a big, important part of this. Because I know even with that Immaterio, when he says the last time a shadow and lightning wielder fought side by side, they managed to drive the Venom back into the Barrens. And I guess the weird thing about that is they made it sound like that they had a weapon that killed the Venom. But I can't remember, Lily, if it was you or if it was Brittany that kind of brought up the question of, well, did they really kill them or did they just...
That was me.
...push them back, but that they were still alive and regathering. And that really kind of said that to me. So I don't understand if that's the case and Immaterio knows that. How do they not know what it was that pushed them back? In the first place, it sounds like those two signets.
Well, they do know the first 6 is signets. So I was theorizing that it had to have been the first 6. But then they erased the Venom from their history.
So maybe they pretended they killed them?
I'm saying if it was back when the first 6, they all know that the Great War was Venom fighting now, potentially, assuming. And that 600 years ago, there was a great weapon that they used to win the Great War. And everybody's just assuming that it destroyed the Venom. But since we don't have any recorded history about it, it's just an assumption.
Wait, let me roll it back to the stuff with Sawyer and the creating the Wardstone. If there's the quote, if I'm to be court-martialed for helping Braxton defend his people, then I shall welcome the trial. All who channel from dragon and griffin alike should flourish under the wards, and now Orisha will be that haven should one of the others ever return. That's from the Journal of Lyra of Moraine. And so Brittany in the comments asked the questions like, who is Braxton? Is he important? It's the first time he's mentioned in the series. And then Brittany also said that this makes it sound like Lyra carved the Orishan Wardstone by herself and not Warwick. So if that's the case, where was the other one that Warwick carved? Which these are all like really good questions, and it makes it sound like Lyra and Braxton were working together.
Yes.
Not Lyra and Warwick.
Yes. And it also makes it sound like they wove that Wardstone so that the Flyers could wield under it. So the fact that they were like in Iron Flame, they were like, what I can still wield isn't as big a issue as they might have thought in the first place.
Sounds like they intended it. I also noted that it sounds like Lyra is Violet and Braxton is Xaden in this kind of situation because Braxton, quote unquote, wants to defend his people, and Lyra is the one that's like, I think everyone should be able to be under the Wardstones. Also, Braxton is such a like Southern white boy name. Can we just talk about that? It's like
It is.
Brayden, Daxton.
It is.
Borderline saying one of those. I just thought it was funny. But I wanted Christy's thoughts on that because Christy is the one that's always talking about the first 6. So I was like, what does Christy think about this theory that it was Lyra and Braxton working together and not Lyra and Warwick?
That would make sense. It would also make sense why Warwick's journal had 2 distinct voices.
Yeah. And why his is confusing because it almost seemed like he had copied it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would think that the first 6 made the one at Bethgaiath first. And it says that they all made it together. And in his journal, he said that he carved a second one. I thought originally it might be the one at Erasia, but now I'm thinking that Lyra did this one either on her own or with Braxton. And what's his name? Is it Braxton?
Yeah, Braxton.
Okay. Or with Braxton so that they could share.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the journal goes, I think he did that on his own, Warwick, and he deliberately made it confusing so that only the people in the know would know.
Yeah.
I wonder if Braxton was a flyer.
I think so. I feel like since she's gonna, be charged with treason, he must be from Poor Meal.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But speaking of this ward, they do go and try and alter it so that the flyers could wield. And we did talk about this a little bit last time about the differences between the Eurasian wardstone and the Bethgaiath wardstone. And they literally go in there and just start taking off protections. The first one doesn't work.
I couldn't believe that they just passed over this.
Ridoc speaks for us all where he's like, kind of wondering what protection we just took off. And then it's never mentioned again.
Again, it seems out of character for Violet to just pass over that. Like, I'm like, what? What?
Wait.
There's also the moment when she asks other people, like, did you see that silver-haired Venom? And they're like, yeah, we're all gonna have gray hair eventually. It's not that big a deal. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? What do you mean?
I could not tell if anybody else saw her or not.
Me too! That's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, was she a hallucination? Did just Violet see her? Was she seeing someone else's projection? Was she seeing into the future? I don't fucking know. I had the same thought, Christy.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the same page. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to see if anyone else talks about that Venom. Not really.
Not in a way that you would notice. It's like one of those things where later on they kind of go back and like the Sixth Sense, where you don't think that it's a ghost, and then all of a sudden they go back and show that like nobody else interacted or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Garrick noticed her.
He does.
Later.
So that's the one thing that I'm like, huh. But in the moment when they're down in that cell in the dungeon area, nobody later mentions that they saw her. And you would think that they would mention her looking like Violet.
And disappearing.
Yeah, and the fact that Violet is so different looking from everyone else. In fact, Jack mentions that she's gray. He's talking to Xaden, he's like, you better be careful or we're gonna get her. You know what I mean? And he mentions how Violet is gray.
Yeah.
So the only person who talks about how Violet looks is Jack in that scene. And we don't see anyone else talk about Violet's appearance or that Venom's appearance. I just think it's weird. Maybe I'm totally overthinking this, but
no.
I don't know. I'm glad that you had the same thought, Christy, because I was like, what? How do people...
Mm-hmm.
How are we just going over this?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very telling that Brittany's very quiet. Either she thinks we're ridiculous, or she's like, they're right, and I
She's
can't
trying
say
to
anything.
find a way to throw us off so that... Yeah.
She's thinking real
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm just listening and trying not to spoil shit.
So see, there we go. Apparently we're on the right track. Yay!
I mean, there's things I know that I know about Theophany that may not necessarily go into this, but
Look at Brittany trying to salvage this now.
I'm
Okay,
trying to think of words. Anyway, back to the ward stone. I had some questions. Now that I really think about the ward stone, I had some questions because, and we'll talk about this later, but there's a lot of talk in the fandom about the different kinds of magic. And the dragons say that they're magic. So they have a type of magic. Then there's the Griffin's magic, which has to be different. Otherwise, how does the Wardstone know to differentiate?
Right.
Then there's the Earth magic, which again has to be different for the Venin.
Like the hatcheries? Or, okay.
For the Venin.
I see.
They channel from the Earth.
Then we also have the runes.
We do, though those come from other sources of power. So I'm thinking the different sources. Then they talk a lot about channeling from the sky. And it says over and over again that the Wardstone in Epesgaia only allows dragon magic. I mean, we also find out that Venin can still channel, just not do big stuff. But how does the ward know which magic to block out and which magic to not block out? Unless they're vastly different.
Yeah.
Because there is this theory out there that the dragons actually channel from the earth as well. I am iffy about it because when that hatchling hatches in Aracia, they put magic back into the ground. And when they gather, the dragons and the griffins make the area more magical. So,
is it the grown dragons, though, or just the eggs that make the area more magical that the dragons could then suck up the magic?
Don't know.
Could it be that their eggs are imbued with magic from some source because they're metal?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like some clarification on how the wards know to differentiate between the different types. Because if the griffins have different magic than the dragons, I can see that. But if they're both channeling, if all three of them are channeling from the earth, then how does the ward know how to differentiate the different types?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be different somehow. Either that or the ward is operating differently than we are aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But considering that they took off a protection.
Yeah.
And Xaden says that he knows that the protection against Venin are still in place. It was just the flyers can now wield.
Right.
It makes you wonder, what if they were blocking out the gods as well? Because wouldn't the gods have different magic, or is it the same as earth magic?
You know what? That's interesting you say that, Brittany. That's so interesting that you say that.
Because you block out the gods?
We've never talked about god magic. Yeah, could you do that?
I mean, you would think that the gods have magic, right? Since they're gods?
Yeah, but could you block it if they did? It seems like if that was the case, there wouldn't be much fear of the gods if you could block their retaliation.
Well,
I mean, why burn stuff to Malik if you're going to block them?
I mean, once you die, you go to Malik's realm, so you're outside the ward protection.
There is a quote, one of the opening chapter quotes is about Zanal. I'll go ahead and read it. I find that favoring Zanal has universal appeal. Everyone wants wisdom, but needs luck. I wrote this down because I was feeling like at where it's put in the book is basically, it seems to be implying that somebody needs luck on their side. And I was assuming that it's Violet, but I wonder, are we really going to say anything about the gods in this book? I mean, Yaros did say we're supposed to, so.
But it's crazy. What else is that Wardstone blocking out? And so the only thing that came to my mind was gods. Because it's not blocking out the dragons. It's sort of blocking out the Venin. It was blocking out the griffins. And they took a...
That would not have come to my mind, because I wouldn't even think about it even being possible to block them.
I would think not, too. I definitely, again, could be pulling out this out of my ass and it not being a thing. But it made me wonder, what else are they blocking? What protection did they lose?
And also, it's kind of insane that Violet went in this not knowing what she was taking away.
For real, do some research
It's not very Violet of her.
on the runes.
Yeah. It's not very Violet of her.
Get somebody well-versed in runes to tell you which one is which.
Seriously, bring Kat.
Yeah.
Instead of Marin.
Well, Kat wouldn't be able to tell you because she's just been introduced, unless she's been doing lots of studying. But someone like Trissa,
yeah.
although she wouldn't come to Beskai, she said no. Wait, I think that's a spoiler. Someone else.
Nice.
I didn't even hear your fucking spoiler because of my upstairs neighbors. What did she say, Christy?
It was very small. It was a very small spoiler. Apparently, Trissa said no to coming to Beskai.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. Not bad.
But one of the others who are learning the runes, who've grown up with the runes, who can teach the runes, they could have come and been like, yeah, that means this and this. She could have, looked at the runes of the one in Eratia and then...
At this point, I fully believe Kat would have been enough. I'm serious. Just, Kat's good at it. Just have her come and be a part of it. That would be fun, too, if she was a part of that scene.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
All right, so moving on to Battle Brief the next day, we do learn that... I love Devera's okay, regarding your wings, wing leaders go with the population. So Dane gets to keep his wing.
Yep.
And it's either just Dane or it's Dane and Third Wing who gets to keep their wing. But the other two stay with the Navarian riders, and I do love that they include Professor Keandra. In Battle Brief, we don't have to deal with fucking Markham anymore, hopefully. But
now we gotta deal with fucking Atos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in stomps Atos, and he arrests Violet for treason. And I just want to say, how the ever-loving fuck did he get promoted?
It definitely was just to harass Violet. 100%.
In the real military, in the American military, the way you get promoted is you have to be recommended by your superior officer in order to get that promotion. And literally, Lilith had just reprimanded Atos very publicly and sent him off. That right there would have been and I spoke to my dad at length about this, and he was like, no, that guy would have never, ever been promoted to general.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like in this situation, it's a little different. I think Melgren is threatened.
Could be. Though,
or Panchak.
I wonder if it's King Tari who assigned him. Panchak would not be able to assign him. Panchak wanted that job. So it also made me think, how did Panchak feel about being passed over?
I forgot Panchak is below that. Ugh. Yeah, no, I mean, why would you say King Tari?
Just because the only person above Lilith Sorengale was General Melgren, and it's King Tari's land, so I guess King Tari would be like commander-in-chief.
I think it's because you read the rest of the book.
No, I feel like this is the Real Housewives of Basgiath.
So in the real world, military American, it would be the president who would have assigned that position. So I'm thinking it's King Tari. But it makes me think that King, even though we haven't seen him much, and even though we already know he's a bastard, even though he's King Tari the Wise, he's kind of dumb and kind of stupid. And I wonder if he's easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not.
I think generally when people name themselves, that whatever they name themselves are actually the opposite. So
you don't think he's very wise? I think he's an idiot.
No. I think Jack is smarter.
Ooh, rough.
Damn.
He didn't leave a good impression whenever we met him with Liam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very strong impression.
No.
So
it's very poofy. Yeah.
It's just
definitely poofy.
It is so telling because we do get to spend a lot of time with Arik, and he hates his father more than he hates Xaden.
Yeah. I love that Arik is our resident anarchist. At one point, they're like, what about you? You could take over. And he's like, I would kill myself before.
He said he would dismantle the family business.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. But, in my little way of interpreting that, it became, I would kill myself.
Aw. No, Arik needs to
It's
live.
just hyperbolic.
Arik needs to live. And it's so funny because I love Arik so much that it makes me
He's fun.
forget that King Tari is a bitch.
Yeah. I love him.
There was a side note that I put on there just thinking, so Brennan takes back the Soaring Gale name.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody theorized, why was this? Was it because Mira kept, pushing him about it? Or
she kind of dressed him down a bit.
Yeah. Or is it because the person who killed him finally knows that he's still alive? Reports from the battlefield said that Finn Ryerson was the one who put an arrow through Brennan's heart. However, why would he join the rebellion if they're the ones that killed him?
I mean, yeah, I never believed that for a second.
Mm-mm.
So,
No.
in fact, I believed it so little, I forgot about it. So, yeah, there's no way.
So it makes you wonder, who then killed Brennan? Could it have been Colonel Atos, who tried to kill Violet last fall?
No.
Interesting.
No, I don't think that little prick can fucking do anything. He would hire somebody, but I
Oh
think
my
he's
God.
like one of those people that could not do it himself.
Well, maybe
So-
What is his signet?
we don't know yet.
God.
I don't know. It
Pooping?
could have been him.
We also maybe Brennan knew that it was Colonel Atos who sent the assassin to kill him, and so
Taking a shit on the enemy.
He's a whole player.
Oh my God.
I guess that's good for his wife. Oh.
My name is Christy.
I
I
don't
like
think that's
cats
the kind
and
of
butts.
hole you want that kind of plug.
Interesting that we never meet Dane's mom, now that I think about it.
Is he
Yeah,
adopted?
that's true.
I don't think so.
It doesn't seem implied that way.
I wonder what happened to her. If she's still
Oh,
alive,
no.
maybe she took the
She ran away.
the Zayden's mom tactic.
Yeah. I mean, knowing Atos, wouldn't you?
Ugh. Yeah.
Okay. In his ever-loving wisdom, Atos sends Violet and Second Squad to Samara.
Yes. What a great guy.
Oh.
And they get there and they're like, we don't need you now.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention about Atos. I love that everybody hates him. The scenarium is like, you have no purview here. You're useless. Shut up and get out. And then when they get to Samara, Lieutenant Colonel de Grenzy is like, they really gave this guy to Atos? Like, really?
Yeah. Everyone's
God.
like, Jesus.
Nobody wants this man. Nobody wants this man in charge. Or, anywhere
that's
near
crazy.
him. But anyway,
Yeah.
de Grenzy's like, fighting's over. Y'all go get some sleep. First, though, Marin says, how's Newhall? That's where my family is. And he's like, it's fine. Go get some sleep. And she has a dream, which, of course, the dreams do seem to be important, but this one is a little weird, where she's like digging through her room and tells Kat that she's going to be the Queen of Tyrandor and that he'll choose you. I know it.
Are we sure that this is her dream?
We don't know.
I was reading through this again and I was like, what if this is Kat's dream?
But Kat's
Because
in it. You don't usually dream about
Yeah.
yourself.
But what if she's seeing her dream somehow?
Because it's like, I don't think Violet calls it a crown. She calls her the Queen of Tyrandor. Like, Violet doesn't do that.
She doesn't.
That's a good catch. I did not. I believed it as it was written.
Some
That's a good catch.
people,
Kat calls it a crown.
some people believe that this dream might be a little prophecy-ish, where Tyrandor succeeds. Although I still can't see Violet telling Kat, he'll choose you, I know it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't know. The dream is weird.
The dream is
It's
weird.
also weird that Kat's there.
The
I
dream
bet you're
is
right.
weird. So right after they wake up, they overhear some writers talking about how Newhall is being attacked. And oh, so sorry, we can't go help. So the group decides to go. And, Violet, of course, can fly faster, so she gets there. And there's Theophanie in the middle of this with a storm going. And she just goes,
hold on just a second, though. The people that were in the hall, a little bit of a rewind. The people in the hall, they showed some care, but they were also like, we are so tired. We just got through fighting. We don't have the resources to do it. They want to. And didn't they also say that with the initial fight that they had crossed the border to fight with the civilians to protect them, even though that they were under strict orders? So I think it was more they were just like done. Like, not that they didn't
I'm not saying that they can't. I was just summarizing. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing I agree, you can only fight for so long. And but, our freshly rested squad goes off to help, and there's Theophanie in the middle of the field going, hey! And it was a trap for Violet. They knew. So how the fuck did she know that Marin's parents or family was in Newhall?
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know how they would have found out, but that means probably that there's a venin somewhere in Samara.
And who sent them to Samara? Atos as well. How did she know? I mean, yes, they do kind of imply that Taryn was seen, and that's how the venin knew that Violet was there. But really? They just so happened to know what Taryn looks like at a distance, and it couldn't have been Coda. And he was only out for a moment. I think Atos told the venin, because he was looking to get her killed anyway.
Of course.
I think he told them.
It wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, I love that we get a little bit of Dragonado.
Poor Taryn. I felt bad for Taryn.
I know. I don't know how to pronounce his name, even though I've heard it in the audiobook.
Crod?
Crod?
Is it Crod?
I think so.
I don't know.
Poor Crod, too.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Garrick uses his secret second signet and shows up.
Okay, when this was revealed, I was like, I don't know how I did not catch this before, but it makes a lot of sense because he's always around.
He is. And
he's always fucking there. And it's like, how did you get there?
Yeah. You would, when I was rereading Iron Flame, I was like, did they really post Garrick and Xaden together? Would they do that?
I feel like they wouldn't.
I feel like they wouldn't either, because that's like putting two allies together. And Atos is also currently trying to kill off Xaden and Garrick. They're stronger together. But
and it's also revealed kind of that multiple of the rebellion probably have two signets or more.
Yes.
Yeah.
They talk about the second signet. Violet says, how often do second signets accompany these particular relics? And Xaden replies, often enough to be sure Kaori can't possibly have accurate records, but not too completely that anyone questions why I only present with one. Our dragons came looking for us. They knew what they were doing. This statement has many people wondering, is it the relic that is causing the second signet? Or when he says our dragons came looking for us, is it because they bonded
family members of the last ones?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so.
I personally think it's the relic. But other people...
I also think it's the relic, but I don't know. I want it to be the relic.
Yeah, I'm going to take the family. I think it's the family. I think somehow they know. Somehow related to the first six.
I think either could be
I'll
realistic.
take the long shot.
For the second...
I don't think it's a long shot.
For the second signet to manifest, it has to be somebody in his direct familial line, like Xaden and his grandfather. So how many dragons would have been able to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd have to know who they were going for, which seems to be what he's saying, but I don't know.
And if it is the rebellion relic, could they manifest potentially without a dragon, or did they have to have a dragon?
I don't know, but I also really want to know what Imogen's second signet is.
If she has one.
She's got a...
Yeah, I think they all do.
Well,
they gotta.
Let's talk real quick about the dragon names. I find it very telling that Ternanok means thunder, Sigale means shadow, Day means ice, and not all of these work. Marb means dead. Not all of these dragons' names work. Coda means war, Calf means battle, Tyne means fire. So like with Mira, her signet is shield, so fire doesn't really work. But a lot of the dragon's name meanings correlate with the signet their writer manifests.
Mm-hmm.
So is this the fake names that you're saying that the dragons give them? Some gave them real names, some gave them fake?
I never thought about that. Rebecca Yarros was the one who was like, think about Auric giving his name as Auric instead of Kamtari, and other instances like that. And the writers or the dragons not giving their real names, so you never know what the records, how they're wrong. But I just find it interesting that a lot of the names, which they had to tell before their writers' signets manifested, so I don't think they chose it based on that.
That's a good point, though, Christy. That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, we do learn quite a bit about Venin in this section. We have Theophanie, Berwin, and Jack. Theophanie got silver hair with the faded tattoo on her forehead. We already talked about the ruby theory, but she seems to know Violet pretty well. So, who is she? Why is she so fascinated with Violet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little suspicious.
I personally think she's a sage. Other people think that she is a maven, but she wears a purple robe, which usually the other sages do. And how does she know so much about Violet? Just crazy.
That is the question.
Because she is Violet. That's
Violet
why they can't kill her. Yeah, because if they kill today's version of Violet, then they kill her as well.
If it was Violet from the future, I'd be like, actually, like, what the fuck?
Rebecca Yarros did say that distance wielding is time and space.
Shut up, Brittany.
Okay, which means that theory is completely, not true. Otherwise, she would not be.
Yep, I was like, no. No.
Okay, so maybe an ancestor, maybe one of the first six.
Maybe an ancestor.
Yeah.
So we also learn about Berwin, who Theophanie thinks is subpar. So I think he's also a sage. A lot of people think that he's the sage from Violet's dreams, or the general, or the general that Xaden faced. But I'm not
thinks he killed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I think I'm confused because Xaden thinks that he killed the general at the end of Iron Flame. I personally don't think that's true. But it was a sage who appeared in the dream, but the general took the credit. So I'm wondering if a different person visited Xaden versus visiting Violet and said the same thing, or if the sage that was in Violet's dream, used his dream signet to bring this other person into the dream and speak, but appeared as himself instead of the general.
That's a lot.
I know. I was thinking about it today, and I was like, what if that happened? That's
a lot. Though.
I'm so confused about who Berwin is, because there's such is he this? Is he that? Are these two people the same thing? But again, Theophanie calls him subpar, so I don't think he's the general. And then we end this section with a talk with Jack. Right. Violet's got some questions. We do learn that they can hide themselves. And it made me wonder. So you can always tell a Venin by their red eyes and their distended veins and whatnot. But if they can hide themselves, do they have some kind of glamour or something?
Honestly, that wouldn't be too big of a shock. It would make sense that they would have some sort of glamour or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would know left and right about everyone.
Yeah. And Jack was like, makes you wonder who's been channeling here for years.
Atos.
It's crazy. You'd think that there would be signs of that, though.
You would think. I keep wondering there's lots of snow on the ground, but I keep wondering when somebody's going to come across the spot where Xaden channeled and be like, somebody channeled here.
Right? Yeah. Huh.
But we do learn, I always wondered this, but only initiates bleed, so they can be killed like regular people. They don't have to have that venom blade.
Okay, makes sense.
Because I was like, why did you bring the orange peel? He survived his dragon dying. Of course, he had to channel to do it. But I thought venom can only be killed by the blades or the daggers. So why did you bring this orange peel? But yeah, then he answered it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. It's a good question until he's like, yeah, we can die like normal people. I don't know. Seems like she had to fix the orange pill error. You know what I mean?
Well,
from the previous book.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it. She used oranges on the mat while he was venom. Dang.
Yeah.
That just occurred to me now.
Yeah.
But we are left with 2 questions at the end of this section. One being, who bonded you first? The one that gave you the power of the sky or the Irid? So does Violet have the power of the sky? They keep bringing it up, but again, that goes back to where this magic comes from her dragon. Does that mean Taryn's channeling from the sky, or is it a different kind of magic? What is going on?
So many questions. There's so much information in this section that is just thrown at us as readers who are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And she's really good at that, just like throwing information out and just being like, here's all the answers, you just don't know the questions yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she does that throughout all of her books so far. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, Theophanie had one question. Why was it this? Why was this important? Who bonded Violet first?
Why does it matter?
Yeah. And the other question that Jack brought up is, are the dragons the bad guys? He says that Violet is bonded to 2 bad guys.
No.
There was...
Absolutely
but
not.
Then there's that fable of the barons that said that even it kind of demonized the dragons.
Some of them, maybe.
There are bad dragons. Yeah.
Yeah, Coda.
But not in total.
Mm-mm.
Solas is questionable, you know?
All right. I do want to say one last thing. Lily, you talked to me before we started this book about how you were afraid that Rebecca Yarros was going to pull an Edward and have Xaden leave Violet for her own sake. And I just want to say this quote here. As much as I want you to run, I'm too selfish to give you up. Are your fears...
I hope he sticks with that.
I'll say, are your fears assuaged?
Not quite. I do think he is different, but I still have that little anxiety in the back of my head.
I love them together. I don't think it would kill me quite the same. I think that it would probably, if something happened. I don't want it to, but, I could survive.
So
it's just like, I don't care.
All right. Before we close out, I want to just say my favorite scenes. They're really kind of more like lines, but I loved the "Why is it always you?" And then when after Violet makes her speech, they were like, "Yeah, she'd be a great politician or a general, maybe, definitely nobility." With that speech, at least a duchess. And who's the Duke of Tyrandor?
Of course, yeah.
And do not dehydrate on my account.
Oh, my favorite quotes from this section were Andarna. Being sassy as fuck.
Now, I will throw in, if Taryn and Sigale broke up, I would be devastated.
They're mates. Their lives are interdependent.
Yeah. They can't.
Now, that would be that would be my Edward and...
But I will say, if Xaden leaves, guess who has to go with him?
Yep.
But
yeah, so sad.
Any favorite scenes or quotes that y'all want to talk about real quick before we end?
No.
My favorite scene is truly the one where Ridoc is like, get your ass out of bed in this section. Because I like Sawyer a lot.
I know, Christy, you put with Indarna about every possible path and the fact that she tells Taryn she won't be another battle she'll have to win.
No, she tells Violet that.
Or did I say
Violet
Taryn?
says, just please be on my side. And she said, okay, I'm on your side. I thought that was really sweet. Mm-hmm. I love every possible path.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we got a lot of information to go through next section as well, but we'll end the episode there. We hope that you will join us for next week's episode. We'll be discussing Onyx Storm chapters 13 through 22. New episodes drop every week, and don't forget to check out last season's discussion on the Zodiac Academy.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. That like and follow are super important for us to continue to bring you new episodes each week, so please, please, please do so. You can also support us by joining us on Patreon. Thank you for listening to the Midnight Raiders podcast. We'll see you next week.
Happy reading, listeners. Don't stay up too late.